Why do some healthcare companies become industry giants while others merely made on the map? In this $10 trillion industry filled of noises and competition, the true secret of making it come down to how you can master the art of visibility and connection. Today, we'll talk about how to leverage LinkedIn for you to not just merely posting, share content, and sell, but truly create an ecosystem of trust, value, and shared vision. Healthcare entrepreneurs, are you ready to rewrite the rules for your business so you can have more time off, a great team, and more income while creating a positive social impact? Then you are in the right place. Welcome to The Provider's Edge. I'm your host, Sabrina Rumbach. I'm a provider, an international peak performance keynote speaker, and a best-selling author. Let's open the gateway to profitability for you today. My guests and I help healthcare entrepreneurs and startup founders like you break through barriers so you can control your business, control your life, and control your future. This is your defining moment to be a disruptor in healthcare. Welcome back. Thanks, Adam, for joining us. I'm so excited for our conversation today. I think I'm someone who always love being in the LinkedIn space than anything else that's social media out there, and especially having you here who supported me in my connections and my growth messaging journey. And so just to talk about a little about Adam Franklin, he's the author of Web Marketing That Works. He's a professional speaker. Yay, the book is right there. And marketing coach and CEO of Blue Wire Media. Some of the accolades including, but not limited to, number 1 in Australia's business blog, number 7 LinkedIn expert in Asia Pacific, and number 9 podcast on Entrepreneurs Magazine's top marketing podcast. He has been teaching thousands of entrepreneurs via his online courses, coaching programs, and his weekly Blue Wire newsletter, which goes to 35,000 plus business owners worldwide. So thank you, Adam, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sabrina. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Yes, thanks for spending the time. I always love to make the right connections, and LinkedIn has been something that works really well for me. However, when we're considering other healthcare executive leaders and innovators in the space, I believe people understand the value. However, they might not really truly understand how to go about it or consistently gaining the right connection through LinkedIn. So that's why we're bringing you the LinkedIn experts. But before we dive into those, I wanted to hear a little bit about your background and how did you find this specialty as your core focus, and how did you get interested in those?
Look, Sabrina, when I first started the business, which was over 18 years ago now, we were literally knocking on doors, asking people if they wanted to buy a website, which is what we sold back in the early days. And that was very hot. It involved a lot of rejection, and we thought there had to be a better way. Now, fortunately, in those early days, it was just as platforms like LinkedIn were becoming part of what people would use on a day-to-day basis. And what that gave us was an opportunity to use these social media platforms, and LinkedIn in particular, to see how they work and to see how we could be doing marketing, lead gen, raising our profile in a much more effective way than knocking on doors in the summer heat in Australia. And so over the last 18 years, we've been originally as an agency doing the work for clients. Then we wrote the book that you mentioned earlier, Web Marketing That Works, where we put all of our ideas and insights at the time. And since then, I've spent 10 or 15 years speaking about this topic at conferences, and more recently developed a coaching program to basically hold people's hand through the journey. Because really, LinkedIn now gives you the opportunity to find any sort of business contact you could be hoping to connect with. It gives you the opportunity to communicate with these people. And it also gives you the opportunity to publish your own ideas so that you can raise your visibility, increase your authority, and share your powerful message with people all over the world.
And that's what we're all about. Many healthcare innovators, programmers, innovation founders of the tech space, or you have a device, you have a program, you run a healthcare payer system, you're in pharma, or you have a traditional practice that's serving patients. No matter what, when we are experts in the field, sometimes it can seem like, oh, I build it, people come to me, right? Like, and I found this gap of solution, then someone else must really cherish me and buy into me. However, we all know it's not just like, oh, you build it, they're going to come. How are you unique? How are you special? There's too much noises out there already, right? And if you scroll through even LinkedIn nowadays, right? A bunch of people posting, yeah, there's a lot of content out there. If you want to try to find stuff, there's always going to be something. But to truly create that relationship, I think that's what we all value. And in medicine, I think we all pride ourselves to say, oh, our clients, these people come to me by word of mouth. Amazing. But how are we doing it? Consistently creating those relationships and not so passive, right? Like, oh, I'll wait for someone to contact me. That's just not going to amplify and accelerate those big mission that we wanted to create. So for you, I remember some of the company that I sat on the board for, they still have those old way, knocking on each doors of physician practices, teaching them about this new solution. Yes, your insurance pay for it. Yes, you can get reimbursement, but it's so time consuming. Instead of we can do much better way, more effective way, and streamline the right people to connect with. So how did all that come about? Like, and have you found that algorithm changing, things are changing, but perhaps some type of fundamental things don't change?
Look, a lot of the fundamental stuff doesn't change, Sabrina. I mean, it's relationships, it's having a good product and actually sharing that message with people so that they can learn the message and benefit from that too. One of the key points that you made there is that there's only so many hours in a day to be doing the one-on-one meetings and phone calls and Zoom calls. And what LinkedIn in particular, but all digital platforms allow you to do is to complement what you're already doing and have the digital version of you do a lot of the heavy lifting. Now, I don't know about you, but there's probably only 10 or 12 half-hour meetings you might be able to pack into a single day. And when you think about your message and the value that you bring to the world, if you're only speaking to 12 people a day, then there's a lot of people that you're not talking with. And so the value with LinkedIn is being able to share that message with more than one person at a time. Now, I'm certainly not saying don't do the one-on-one meetings. Continue to do those, absolutely, because the relationships are so valuable. But what this idea of using LinkedIn allows you to do is to be reaching way more people and allowing them to know, like, and trust you and know, like, and trust your product or your practice or your business so that you can be open to more opportunities. You can have more people know about your business. And then when you do have the one-on-one meetings or phone calls or Zoom meetings, these people already know a lot about you and your product. So you can be way more productive and effective and valuable when you do have the in real life or in-person meetings.
Yeah, and then I believe LinkedIn is bought by Microsoft. So if you type in anybody's name, LinkedIn is always going to be the first on the search of your Google search. And therefore, if you have no appearance on LinkedIn, then people are going to be iffy about who you truly are. And we are not saying you have to post every day and multiple times a day. That's not what LinkedIn is about. It's not the pretty pictures of Instagram. It's not the carnival of TikTok. And it's not we have no idea what Facebook is doing, right? And it's really that people, they are having videos. Perhaps you don't like to be on camera. Don't do that. Like perhaps you like to write. There's a LinkedIn newsletter. And there's also LinkedIn audio that kicked off last year. And I actually repurposed our podcast to LinkedIn audio and then opened up for people who wanted to be on stage and have a conversation afterwards. So I think there's so many ways that we can be creative about leveraging this platform and really represent ourselves or our organization. What do you see is some good ways to find the right people when it comes to, as you're saying, we don't have to limit ourselves to having half-hour conversation with only so many people in a day, right? And now we can actually proactively find the right people. And then I believe, number one, you tapped on, we have to know how to say things, right? We have to represent a clear message and valuable product. So we have to define that first. And then the next step really is be creatively intentional on search these people out.
Absolutely. And before we go introducing ourselves to new people on LinkedIn, it's really important to make sure that our own LinkedIn profile is up to date and that we're putting our best foot forward. Just like we would get, dressed and do your hair and brush your teeth before meeting somebody in real life, it's really important to make sure that we do the same with our digital profile, in particular LinkedIn, because as you mentioned, when people type in your name, there's a very high likelihood that LinkedIn is going to be the first result that shows up. It'll be the first thing people click on. And it's really important that firstly, you have a presence, and secondly, that it is accurate and it's reflective of who you are and what your business is about.
The initial outreach on LinkedIn can be daunting, but simplicity is your ally. Start with a message that invites dialogue without overwhelming the recipient. A straightforward approach paves the way for a conversation ripple with potential, allowing mutual interests and opportunities to naturally come to the force. What's better? Take the time to review someone's website and posts, then referring them in your connection request. It is an excellent method to differentiate yourself and make a memorable impression. If you haven't done so already, subscribe now to the latest insight and actionable tips from our expert guests. Let's rewrite the rules for your business and create a positive impact in healthcare. Back to the show.
So once you've got that profile up to date, then you're well placed to then be reaching out to new people. And your question was, how do we find these people? Well, the good thing is that there's hundreds of millions of people on LinkedIn, all with their job titles and their companies and their industries and their location and all of this valuable information. So if you're looking for peers or partners or other health tech providers or whoever your ideal client is, you can run a very simple search on the free version of LinkedIn. Or if you want to be slightly more sophisticated, you can use their paid product called Sales Navigator. And then you can literally find a list of all these names of people that you are looking to connect with. And when you compare that to the olden days, before LinkedIn, very often what was common practice back then is that people would buy databases of all these names and email addresses and phone numbers of those ideal prospects. But the problem with that was, one, it was super expensive, like tens of thousands of dollars. And the second problem with that is that the data that you would buy would be out of date. People would change jobs, they would change emails, they would sell their business. And so what you had was a whole list of names that weren't much use to you. Now, LinkedIn provides that for free, and you can use it to find all the types of people you would ever want to connect with.
Yeah, it's such a good point. yes, LinkedIn does restrict you on how many new connections you can reach per day, but you can find these connections. And for some of us who use Sales Navigator, because that's a primary way, right, to get in contact. So for, let's say, a startup founder, and your primary thing is to find the right accelerator to help you. And perhaps those incubator and accelerator, those are the keywords that you put in there under search. And perhaps you wanted to focus within your state first. So it's easy to get to those locations. And before you're knocking on their door and just show up all of a sudden and read about what they post, what they care about. And you already know them so much. So then when you're trying to request a connection, or then you go into their offices, there's immediate connection because you already read about them, you learn about them, right? So what are some of the tips? Okay, so now we use some keywords, we found the right people. How do we approach them when we're initiating these conversations?
Great question, because this is where a lot of us get stuck. Now, so many people might have hundreds, if not thousands, of LinkedIn connections who we've never spoken to. Not by spoken, literally speaking, not even messaged or contacted. Now, a lot of us get scared because we don't want to say the wrong thing. We don't want to come across as salesy or pushy or aggressive. And so instead, most people just say nothing and they're silent and they never even say hello to the people in their network. Now, could you imagine that happening in real life? Imagine meeting someone for the first time, Sabrina, or say we met for the first time, we said hello, and then we didn't say anything to each other ever again. It's totally wouldn't happen in real life. And yet on LinkedIn, that's what happens all the time. So my words of advice here are just treat it like a in real life meeting with somebody. So if you meet, say hello, ask them a question, ask them how they're doing, mention something that you admire about their body of work, make a conversation starter just like you would in real life, and then let the conversation evolve from there. But the worst thing to do, in my opinion, is just to be completely silent and say nothing.
That's such a great point, because you definitely see that, right? Or people who always do congratulations on your birthdays, happy birthday wishes, or congratulations for any promotions. But when you actually try to have a conversation with them, they don't say anything back. Or you can be like the one who's like, oh, thanks. And then you don't really say anything substantial. Then you actually lost that connection. And something I always do for my birthday wishes is that I actually just record really quickly, because typing is too slow for me. So I goes like, hey, thanks. I actually had a great weekend doing XYZ. What do you do during your time off? Right? It can be so simple that doesn't have to be related to their work and something super complicated. Lower down their guard, just have a basic conversation, then lead into other things that perhaps pertinent to what you're looking for, to having expansion of conversation. And what would you say for those who you haven't connected with, right? Now we search for this list. What type of message that people should add in that initial message request that's more likely for people to accept the request, instead of thinking it's a bot, or these people will have no idea who you are and they just simply ignore it?
Okay, so when we're reaching out to new people on LinkedIn, yes, you can add the note. And I recommend doing that. Although the thing in my experience that makes the biggest difference is your headline underneath your name on your profile, because that is what people see when that connection request comes through. So that headline is your opportunity to convey your credibility, to say who you are, who you help, And if that is optimized and you're putting your best foot forward, people will often accept your connection request, even if there's no note. That said, I always like to add a note because I think it's personable. But again, we don't want to overthink it and be too familiar or anything like that. We can literally say, "Hi, Sabrina, I really like your profile. It would be great to connect." Or as someone who's a healthcare leader, I would love to connect, or I'd love to invite you to my network. We don't need to drill back onto their LinkedIn profile and say, "Hey, I saw which college you went to and that you did this sport." And, that's a bit too familiar. And I don't think we would do that in real life. We would say, "Hello, nice to meet you." And then we would let the conversation evolve. And when it's a conversation starter or further into that conversation, we could then bring up stuff like, "Oh, I saw you did this," or "I saw you did that," and use that rapport further down the track. But the outreach message can be very simple.
Yeah, definitely. I think all of us, sometimes we complicate things too much. And even when me and Adam was talking about, when I reached out to this one person who's also a healthcare podcaster, I'm just so excited. I'm just like, yeah, creative mind doing things. But when you say too much, then people don't know what to respond to that, right? And they're just like, "Thanks." And then, yeah, they do accept you, but then what are you going to say next, right? So hold back a little bit, get little sprinkles of exciting things in there, and then plan out what you to say next, perhaps, right? Ask a question, perhaps even have a few questions in mind. What I like to do usually is I love to attend events of people who I follow in the space. Someone who's like a female founder or a female investor, when they host this audio event or live event, whoever is actually attending the event, I like to connect with them. Of course, check out their profile, if that person is going to be aligned with what you're doing. And all I say is, "Hey, so-and-so, great to connect with you at so-and-so's event. Would love to learn more about what you're doing." And that gives people a sense of like, "Oh, how did you find me?" Right? Not just like, "Where did you found them?" And then some other invitation that I have accepted are simply another healthcare provider saying, "Hey, I would love to meet more people in the Houston space. I found your profile. Let's connect." Right? So it can be as simple as it is, and then figure out something about their post or whatever that they're doing to continue that conversation. Is there a way? I would say sometimes that I got challenges on LinkedIn is that when you have multiple messages, sometimes you forget who you talk to, or you needed to follow up. Is there some suggestions you have for those sense where you're not going to be like initial excitement, talk to people, then you never heard from that person again, right?
Exactly. It is very tricky to track the conversations in LinkedIn. And so what I recommend doing and what I help my coaching clients do is to have a spreadsheet where you keep a list of all the different names of the people that you've reached out to, and then keep track of where the messaging is at. And I use a 5-step nurture system, from connecting with someone, to starting a conversation, to gauging if they're interested, to then having what I call a shake the tree type of message or a hand raiser message, all the way through to booking a conversation or a meeting. And what this spreadsheet allows you to do is not lose track of where these conversations are at. So you can see very clearly, okay, I've reached out to 100 new people, 25 of those have accepted. I've started a conversation with 10 of those people. And what that means you can do is, if people don't respond to a message, you can go back and follow them up. And when they do respond, you can advance that conversation to the next stage by asking a new question. And that is the key to track it and also have the visibility so that you can be consistent and not lose track of the conversations. Because if you've got more than, say, 5 or 10 conversations on the go, super easy to lose track of that.
Yeah, definitely. It's what we don't track. We don't know what's happening. You can think you had a 10 conversation and perhaps you only have 5, or those 10 conversations, you have no idea what stage of the conversation. I found that some people would say, that's awesome, thanks. Versus other people's like, oh, I check out your profile too, love to chat. Then of course my response is like, amazing, let's have a virtual coffee chat. Here's my link. And versus other people that they're just saying thanks. Then you can go back to something about what they did or how they handle things. Or I feel like when I connect with other podcasters, I love it because we're all in this creative world. Even though we concentrate in healthcare, I can always ask more about their show, like what type of speaker you like, what type of topic, how I can support you, right? And then put yourself in that giver perspective and not just like, oh, I have all these great solutions. I think that's perhaps you can tap into is when I see these messages coming to me, immediately it's like, watch this video, read my book, I have this article. Then it just seems like, oh, you're just throwing things at me. I don't even know you yet.
Exactly. The more you can make it about the other person, the better. And even if you do have a great article or a great video that you think will be useful to them, I always recommend offering it to them first rather than sending it to them. So that's known as permission to proceed. And I'm also a big fan of going to their profile or Googling their name, going to their website or a video that they've done and say, Sabrina, I was just watching your video on whatever the topic was. I really liked what you said at the 3-minute mark about podcasting, because it demonstrates to that other person that it's a two-way conversation. It's not just me trying to sell my products or services. I'm actually interested in you, and I've made the effort to find out a bit more about you and find something that I genuinely admire. And that can go a long way to developing a real relationship. Now, of course, that takes time. You may not have the time to do that 100 times a day. So you've got to be quite selective and strategic with who you really want to be building the closest relationships with.
Your LinkedIn profile is where your digital conversations begin. It's the handshake before the meeting, the introduction before the dialogue. Make every second count by presenting a clear, concise snapshot of your professional journey. Remember, updating your profile is not a mere task. It's a strategic move that can lead to unexpected collaborations and propel your business forward. Hey there, fellow healthcare entrepreneurs and innovators. Reach out to me, Sabrina Runback, on LinkedIn. Let's connect and explore how we can elevate your healthcare business. Now, let's dive into the second half of our show.
But of course, for everybody else, there are other ways to develop the relationship too. For example, if you're running a workshop or an event, or you have a podcast, you might send people an invite and say, look, I'm running this workshop. It's for healthcare leaders, people in the tech space, entrepreneurs. In it, we're going to cover these topics. And if you would like, I could send you an invite. Now, again, we've got permission to proceed because we're offering it to them. But that is another really good way where you don't have necessarily the time to research them in as much depth, but to still invite them to something and give them the opportunity to engage with you further, because that's another indication that they're interested. They're interested in developing the relationship with you to the next step, or they're interested in the topic that you will be providing some more information on. So we always want to just be advancing people through those steps.
Exactly. And I think I use that strategy and have heard other people, especially those who build networks, using the same strategy, is that sometimes you really can't even have so many conversations and then keep jumping in one-on-one call. You just don't have enough time today, right? And what people have done is set up this weekly meeting and just bring anybody who you don't know into the same space because it's beneficial for them to perhaps helping them to meet some new people. And at the same time, while they're talking about their work, you can gain a sense of, is this going to be a good fit? And then if it's a good fit, then proceed to a longer term partnership conversation. So it can be a system, a way to screen a process to get to the right people, and not feeling like, oh my God, my calendar is booked with calls all day long. I don't have a breather. Another thing you mentioned, I think is a great tip, is that we should look into what other people published, what they're posting, their website, anything else that they're doing. And we don't have to actually physically do that. I'm a huge component of having a virtual assistant, right? Having an executive assistant to say, these are the profile of people I've been connected to. I really wanted to get to a deeper conversation, but I haven't get to that point. So have your assistant look up some things, give you that short report. So then you can use it to go back and message these people, whether I love to do voice note, just because I feel like typing takes too long. Or you can actually, once that your VA have that report, you can technically just copy paste that little short blurb of what they found into the message to help you save some time.
Absolutely. Any of those, I mean, certainly any of these approaches where you're getting help from a virtual assistant, it saves you time. And anything that you can do at scale also means you're having more impact for the same amount of effort. And if you're a healthcare leader, executive, entrepreneur, you're busy. Being on LinkedIn isn't the most important part of your day. And so we don't want to drag you away from the stuff that you need to do, like run your business and grow your business and communicate with stakeholders. But what we do want to do is maximize the things that you do best and get help from assistance or technology to do the other parts. And that's where the publishing of the content is so valuable to executives and entrepreneurs, particularly in healthcare, is that you could record a short video if you prefer talking to typing. If you prefer writing, you could write, as you mentioned earlier, a newsletter or an article or a post. But when you do that, you'll be showing up in the newsfeed of probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people. And if you've been strategic in growing your network with the right types of people, those people are going to see your content. Some of those people are going to engage with it. They're going to leave a comment, or they're going to like it, or they're going to share it, or they're going to private message you, or they're going to vote in a poll. And if and when they do that, that's a really good indication that they are interested in what you have to say. So you could then start a private conversation with those people because you know that there is a degree of interest already. And so that's, again, the content side of it is the digital version of you doing the heavy lifting. Like, it might take you 5 minutes to record a short video, maybe 10 minutes or 20 minutes to write a LinkedIn post. But what you're doing then is you're staying top of mind with 100 people or 1,000 people. And that is such a good way to be remembered and to share your insights and to be visible and to raise your profile, that it works really well because 99% of people on LinkedIn are lurkers. They are on the platform, they log in every day, they scroll through the newsfeed, but they never, or 99% of people never publish content. They never leave a comment on other people's stuff. They don't private message people. And so if you're prepared to be part of that 1% that's active, then you get a disproportionate amount of attention and visibility for your business or your own personal profile. So there's a lot of upside if you're prepared to share some insights and ideas in a format that sits comfortably with you, whether it's written, video, visual. You've got all those options on LinkedIn.
Exactly. There's so many different strategies. You figure out what feels most comfortable to you and easy for you. And we can always talk about repurposing strategy, right? Taking that written blog into a short-term video. That short-term video chopped it up into 60-second or less formats, and people actually love those short forms. Then you can also turn that 20-minute blog into perhaps 2 weeks of short social post, right? And nowadays with ChatGPT or any other things, you can take whatever you wrote and repurpose, and it doesn't take you that long time. And the quality is in your words, not some random words or some other people generate for you. So be creative, figure out what works the best for you. And I know people are going to want to learn a whole lot more from you. You've been developing this for a long time. You have templates for people for outreach, things to consider. Optimize their profile, be visible, seem credible. What would be the best way for people to reach you?
Okay, so the natural place to find me would be LinkedIn. You can search for Adam Franklin. I'm the Australian Adam Franklin. Alternatively, there is my website where, as you mentioned, there are dozens and dozens of free marketing templates. The web address is bluewiremedia.com.au. And they're all available to you there. And I'm sure there'll be a link in the show notes or the description somewhere on this page.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Adam, for spending time with us. And I'm sure people walked away with so many different tips. Don't get overwhelmed. Just figure out 1 or 2 things that you can implement right now. And that's all that matters.
Leveraging LinkedIn is an essential strategy for healthcare executives, entrepreneurs, and innovators. With the right approach to profiles, content, and connections, a powerful tool in the arsenal of healthcare entrepreneurial success. It's about positioning yourself as a knowledgeable leader and connecting with others who can help your business grow. We chat about 6 major points today. Number 1, truly shine on LinkedIn. Your profile must be a polished mirror reflecting your expertise and the unique benefits you bring to the table. By meticulously crafting each section from the headline to summary, you can ensure that every visitor grasps your professional essence at a glance. Number 2, mastering conversation on LinkedIn is akin to a fine art, where the goal is to engage authentically without overstepping the boundary into over-familiarity. It's about striking the perfect balance between professional interest and personal touch, initiating dialogue that could lead to fruitful collaborations. Number 3, publishing content on LinkedIn transcends mere visibility. It's a strategic move to consummate your standing as a thought leader in the healthcare industry. By sharing valuable insight and stories, you can attract a following and initiate discussion that underscore your expertise and expand your influence. Number 4, utilizing LinkedIn's Sales Navigator and other tools strategically can transform your network from shotgun to sniper precision, connecting you with the exact people you can catalyze your business growth. It's about turning a vast sea of profiles into a force stream of potential partnerships and opportunities. Number 5, your initial approach message is your handshake in the digital world, setting the tone for potential relationships. With a clear, concise, and respectful approach, you can open the door to new connections, paving the way for deeper discussion and collaboration opportunities. Number 6, finally, success on LinkedIn doesn't end with making connections. It's about nurturing these relationships over time. Keep a detailed track of your interactions can make follow-up more personable and effective, ensuring that no opportunity for collaboration or conversation slips through the cracks. As you reflect on these insights, consider how you can apply these strategies to your own LinkedIn presence. What steps would you take to enhance your digital interaction and grow your healthcare venture? Thank you for listening. Remember, the positive change we're seeking starts right here with me and you. If you are a fan of the show, or if you are just having struggles or success that you're either experienced in the past or are experiencing now in the healthcare industry, these matter to all of us. I want to hear from you. Visit sabrinarumback.com/connect and send me a direct message. Talk soon.